What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Guys of Texas, Arkansas, Texas week. We have special guest, our friend Jacob Garrison from the 9 to 5 Sportscast. How are you doing today, Jacob?
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. Always a good week when we have the opportunity to upset Texas.
Well, let's slow down there for a quick sec. We are playing Arkansas this week. I know Jono and Seth. I don't know if you've listened to the podcast with Jacob, but I have been riding on the cover train for Arkansas for quite a while now, and they think I'm an Arkansas fan. So it's not the case, but it is the 80th time that Texas and Arkansas will play each other. Texas leads the series 56 and 23, including 26-10 series advantage in Fayetteville. Texas coming in at number 3 this week. Arkansas. Who did y'all play last week? Or were y'all on a bye?
We
Y'all were
played, yeah. We're coming off of a bye. We played Ole Miss
That's right.
before that.
That's right. Oh yeah, y'all got.
I mean, I guess we were there. The team
Smoked
was
by Ole
there.
Miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they were in uniform.
Yeah,
But
somebody was there.
want to kind of go ahead and, as the Arkansas expert for the group, wanted to
Well, that's gracious of you.
give you the stage real quick. And give us what your strengths, what your weaknesses are, how your team's been this season.
Yeah, I mean, this season's been, if anything, just up and down. That's the only way I know how to explain it. When you go from beating a top 10 ranked Tennessee team who is back into the top 10 again, we can't neglect that, to getting, as you stated, just absolutely ramshackled by Ole Miss at home. um what do you take away from that? What do you take away from games like that? The only thing I can say strength wise, I honestly think that our decent defensive unit. I'm gonna exclude the Ole Miss game because I feel like that's kind of an outlier. We haven't really had any other circumstances quite like that throughout the rest of the season. I wish I had an explanation as to what happened there, but I really don't have one. But our defense has been really good for the vast majority of this season. We came up with a great defensive game plan that pretty much shut Tennessee down. Um, and I have to think that T Will is going to be doing the same thing. Not that okay. Take this with a bit of grain of salt. What I'm about to say, not that Texas and Tennessee are the same team by any
Right.
stretch, but they play a similar brand of football to an extent. Um, I think Texas probably has a better, which is weird, but I think Texas probably has like a better offensive line at this point. Tennessee started off the season with a stronger offensive line for sure, but I think Texas is above that now. Um, but I think he's probably going to come into the game with a similar defensive game plan as what he had against Tennessee. And I would like to think that our strength here is hopefully going to be able to, um, try to get you guys behind the ball, behind the sticks, disrupt your game plan, and get some turnovers. And I can promise you that's the only way we win this football game. That's the only chance we have. There's not enough on the offensive side of the ball to take over control of the game and outscore you guys in a shootout. That's not going to happen. Um, we have too many question marks on the offensive side of the ball. We have a quarterback who, at times, has been fantastic, and at other times, just makes you scratch your head. Um, and it's just we're gonna have to have some turnovers. We're gonna have to keep you guys out of rhythm and off your game plan. And I feel like we've got a good defensive coordinator for it. We've got good enough defensive players if they can figure out how to do it. Then I think that that's our best route. Um, I will say it's not it's not a good matchup on paper, quite clearly for us at all. The way that you guys play ball is a tough. It's tough for defenses to really counter that efficiently because you have a lot of different methods for getting yards. The way that Texas has played this season, um, they've just done a lot of spreading the field out, running off play action, and passing the ball down the field. You have an incredibly good tight end which makes your offense just, that's just another cog that gets overlooked, I think, a lot of times in the offense. I can't think of the kid's name off the top of my head right now.
Gunnar Helm.
Thank you. But watching that kid, like he's very good. He's a bigger part of that offense. I think a lot of people give him credit for.
Well, and I think looking at defensively, you look at the games. Oklahoma State, that one confuses me. Y'all lost 39-31. But other than that, you let 27 against UAB. But then you turn it on. You let Auburn scores 14, A&M scores 17, Tennessee 14. LSU scored 34 against you guys. But your defense has done really well up until your big loss against Ole Miss for sure. So,
but even in that LSU game though, there were turnovers. I mean,
right.
we had opportunities. Basically, it wasn't until LSU got that like SWAT interception fumble thing right on our end zone that just kind of screwed momentum for us in that game. We were within one touchdown until that happened, and then the floodgates open. We just broke, and that's what it's going to be here too. I can guarantee you. If Texas gets up by 2 scores, that it's probably going to be the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just gonna have to keep the game close and try and keep you guys out of rhythm.
Seth, what Texas side of the ball? What are you looking forward to? What do you think needs to be the game plan for Texas this week?
So I tried to dive in a little bit and figure out some details because I'm just not that familiar with Arkansas, but I'm mainly going off of what I've heard from other people. I'm hoping that we really stretch the field and expose their secondary. I've looked into a few stats, but I'm also, like I said, I'm going off of other people's word that their weakness on their team is the secondary right now. So I know we do a lot. I keep bringing it up that we do a lot of behind the line action and kick it out to the sides. And I'm really hoping that we deviate from that at the beginning of the game and start trying to stretch it out and see if we can't really put pressure there.
Well, on that note, Quinn is the fourth quarterback in the SEC that has had 5 touchdowns of 20-plus yards or more in one game. So, yes, they were not necessarily deep balls, but the way that it was game planned, it was we are starting to I wouldn't say stretch a field, but he's finding ways to kind of get around that also.
Yeah.
So, Jono, what do you got?
Just looking defensively. Arkansas obviously has some pieces. Green's been playing well this season. If you look at his stats, he's had, a couple of games there where he really went off and was super efficient, not only throwing it, but rushing it as well. And then kind of just looking defensively to see how we do. You have Jaquindon Jackson as well for Arkansas that was originally a Texas recruit in 2020 that transferred out and spent some time at Utah before Arkansas. So he's going to be playing with a little bit of chip on his shoulder for sure. But just a good test for us defensively. I'm excited to see this matchup because Arkansas has pieces that could hurt us. So I just want to see the secondary keep playing the way they're playing, see Jahdae Barron lock up some of their receivers. So I'm really excited to see the defensive side of the ball against Arkansas.
Yeah, Armstrong, their wide receiver, is probably going to be, in my opinion, will be the best wide receiver we've seen all year.
Yeah.
He looks very good. And I think that's going to be a huge test for our secondary, our secondary has been very good. It's kind of astounding, even on defense. Texas has forced at least one turnover in 17 consecutive games so far. So that defense has just gotten better and better, and a lot of these are now multiple turnovers. And our defense I think they're very much clicking right now. Yes, Florida scored 17 last week, but that was at the end of the game in garbage time, like just getting reps for guys that haven't played a whole lot. So, the positive side also for this Arkansas game is it's at 11 a.m. Number one, our team thrives, and Sark's talked about this before. Our team thrives at 11 a.m. because it's just like the way they practice. Like, it fits that same schedule. You get at night in Arkansas, in my opinion, and it is a different ballgame.
Yeah. I haven't been there. I've heard from you how electric the atmosphere can be there, especially when Texas comes to town. But I'm kind of glad it's 11 a.m. game.
Yeah, Sark said, I don't know what DKR did to Arkansas, but they hate us.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a long standing. And I mean that I am my father. I grew up in a Razorback household. I still have a picture on my wall that's just all the mascots from the old Southwest Conference. It's got Texas, the Longhorns, everything on it. I grew up in a household that absolutely hated Longhorns everything, right? And I didn't understand it. I was like, we don't play them. Like, I don't, why? What is this? And it got explained to me over the years. I watched some of the old footage and film and everything else, and I mean that it was a rivalry. It was a serious rivalry for quite a while.
boy, we
Before
we
we
got to
came around.
we
So
found that out when we went to the game a few years. Was it 3 years ago?
yeah,
Boy,
yeah, I
we
think
both
so.
got to experience it firsthand because you had I
Yeah,
had old grandpa holding his grandchild at the end of the game, hammered drunk, cussing me out. It's like,
yeah.
holy smokes!
It
Like,
was it was crazy. It
yeah,
was crazy. Then we had the random kid. We're walking down the hill to get back to the truck, back to the car or whatever.
Mhm.
And the guy rolls up and says "Boomer Sooner." I'm like, "You're wearing a Razorback shirt. Kid. What are you
yeah.
What are you doing? Like, you just hate him so bad. You just got to say Boomer Sooner. We just beat him in football, and now you're saying Boomer Sooner, Boomer Sooner. Man, like, what's
We all
happening
have
here?
those. We all have those fans. We all
Yeah.
have them.
So just wild
Um,
stuff.
yeah, I'm interested. We abandoned the run game again last week. Like, I mean, not really abandoned, but like it was very much. It was schemed really well, and Sark was showing a lot more cards last week. But I'm just curious to see like, and Gibson apparently has been carrying a football around all week. There has been bounties put out. I know that was said in the chat. Yes, there have been bounties for that football put out. Someone put in $1,000 like immediately on that thread. I was like, holy smokes. Let's make it happen. Jacob, I don't know if you know, Jared Gibson is one of our running backs who fumbled twice in Florida
Yeah.
against Florida, and he just got playing time again. He went a month without playing time, and he's just as good. We have Baxter, we have Blue, and we have Gibson. All can break out. What about do you like Jackson? How has he been for
Yeah,
you
I
guys?
mean, Jaquindon's been banged up for pretty much the entire season now. When he's healthy, he's great. I mean, he's by far the best running back we have. Um, Outside of that, we have Rashad Dubinion, who's a returner, who he's kind of like a powder keg. I mean, he's not very big, but he's really explosive off the line. We have kid's last. I think his last name is Hall or something to that effect. We got him from um, uh, sorry, Florida State in the transfer last year, and I mean he's very small. I believe his name's like Monty Hall. I want to say smaller guy, scat back. But what I wanted to bring up mostly is, have you guys heard about our our 235-pound freshman running back, um,
Uh, what's his name?
Braylon Russell.
Yeah, Braylon Russell.
This kid, y'all. You can tell he's a freshman. He's very green, but he is scary. He is every bit of 230, 240, and he can absolutely explode off the line of scrimmage. And I just think once he gets a little more experience, he's going to be a problem. He will be an absolute problem. I'm sure you'll get a chance to see him in this game this weekend because we mix him in on certain sets and stuff. But he just wait, yeah, he is something else. He's a lot of fun to watch because he's gonna just absolutely bruise everybody that tries to tackle him.
Well, he's going to be facing one of the best run defenses in the country, so it'll be interesting. It looks like he did Mississippi State. He had 16 carries for 175 yards, averaged 10.9 yards a game
Yeah.
on that.
Now,
So,
I
yeah.
mean, Mississippi State's defense is
Yeah.
non-existent.
Well, they
So
held us to 10 points in the first half. So, I mean,
it was like the first SEC game you played all year too, though.
it was the very
Yeah.
first SEC game,
Yeah, I
yes.
mean, I don't know. You take what you want to from that. And Mississippi State started out like they lost a bunch of games, but they were playing everyone close at the beginning of the season. So I don't know. But yeah, he's very very good. Armstrong, that's a good call out. Big body, fast, great hands. He's Talen's number one look every single down. You can guarantee that that's the guy he's going to be looking for because he has the surest hands out of all of our wide receivers. Um, Isaac Tesla is also a very good wide receiver. For some reason, it feels like we've had a lot of trouble scheming him. It feels like Bobby's had trouble scheming him into the offense, or he just doesn't scheme him into the offense, which is weird. But very good hands. And then Tyrone Broden, who's again like 6'4", 6'5", 215, 220, but he's got his hands are not the best. So, you throw to the body and hope for the best. So, but I mean, we've got good wide receivers. It's really more down to Talon being able to get the ball to him. He's a run first quarterback, has been ever since he came from Boise State. I don't know if you've ever seen his Boise State stats, but they're pretty telling as to what his actual ability is. But he is absolutely a danger with his feet out of the backfield. And if he has a good night, his arm is good enough. We can win some games, but he's got to be on it.
I wanted to
Jonah-
ask you,
Go ahead.
with Taylor Green coming off the injury, is there any news about him being limited or like the game plan? What you think?
I think physically, no. I don't think that it didn't seem like there was a whole lot physically. Now, it did seem like uh, at times he was, kind of favoring it a little bit in that Ole Miss game. I mean, he got hit a few times, and it was like a deep bone bruise is what they categorized it as. So he favored it for a little bit, but then he would take off running, a couple plays later, and you wouldn't really notice anything. I think he's just, kind of, he might be a little bit gun shy now after that, possibly, but I didn't notice a whole lot of it. It's just the game plan didn't favor him running much because we were getting absolutely stomped by Ole Miss. So,
Okay.
no sense in getting him hurt more.
Jono, who's your player to watch for Texas this week?
I think Isaiah Bond, man. I feel like our offense clicks different with him in there, and that showed with that in that Florida game. Using him in a lot of different ways as well. So having him in the game, I feel like makes a huge difference for our offense. It just felt like we clicked better with him in there. So I would say if there's one player that I would definitely circle in this game and look out for, it'd be Isaiah Bond.
Seth, what about you?
I would have gone same route, but I will go with Blue. That's just more wishful thinking. I think he could be a really dangerous concept after they stretch the field out a little bit. It could really do something. I mean, he's been lacking touches for the last couple of weeks, and I think it'd be a great opportunity to really show his explosiveness.
Jake, what about for Arkansas? Who's your player to watch for Arkansas?
I think I haven't mentioned him yet, but I think it's going to be Haas. I think it's got to be our tight end. Like, we got to get that kid going. He is absolutely one of the biggest parts of our offense, biggest threats we have, and he's just been underutilized up until this point. But the games that we've won and had success in, he's been a big part of. Got to get that kid going.
For me, it's the entire offensive line for Texas. I want to see, against this defense, with their front line, I want to see kind of the same thing from Florida. We need to see the consistency. I think we're hitting that stride the same time from last year, where we get past all the tough games with OU and everything from last year, and we start hitting our stride. I do feel that coming, and I feel like we've turned the corner now. I think the bye week is a good week for us, but I do want to see the offensive line step up again. I did see a stat, and I don't know if I want to read this, but So Texas is one of 8 teams to have the same offensive line starters in every game this season.
That's a good stat.
South Carolina, Tulane, Indiana, Wisconsin, Kansas, Syracuse, and Texas State are the only other ones. So, knock on wood, that continues. But I think that's been a big key for our offense as well. Yeah.
Yeah, thankfully Cam got back on the field. I was worried about that last week.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What's up with your coach? Is he in the hot seat? Is he gone?
I mean, they did a poll. Here's what's weird, right? So they did like one of our bigger radio stations in the area did a poll about, do we let Sam go after the season? Do we give him one more? And the vast majority of people were voting to give him one more. And I think that should tell you, I mean, like, maybe some people are starting to realize, like, okay, honestly, at Arkansas, if you're winning 7 to 8 games a season, 6 to 7 realistically, 7 to 8, that's, and then every once in a while, like the Houston Nut model is probably the best thing I can bring up here, because if you're winning 6, 7, 8 games, more leaning towards 7 and 8, but every once in a while you're winning 9 or 10, that's really all you can ask for a coach at the University of Arkansas in the SEC. Let's be realistic here. Like that's pretty good in my personal opinion. I'm a realist when it comes to, it comes to this kind of stuff. Like that's not SEC's hard, man. Yeah, I mean, you guys, you understand. Like it's hard. It's hard to do this consistently.
We don't understand that because it's been pretty cake besides Georgia for us. So no, we don't understand that. I don't know what we've been talking about with this SEC.
You will. I mean, you walked into the SEC with one of the best teams you've had in like decades. So once that's gone, if that's gone, I mean, it may not for you guys because you guys have a huge recruiting base now. But I mean, it's not easy. And again, you actually just made my point by bringing up Georgia. Like you go from Georgia, who is winning back-to-back titles, to now they lost 2 games. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like it goes away. It goes.
Yeah,
away
we were their SEC championship. That's pretty much what that was.
Potentially.
But everyone. So here's the problem with the SEC, in my opinion. You can't have it both ways. You can't say SEC is the best conference. They'll smoke anybody. Like our bottom tier will smoke anybody else in another conference, and then also say we have the easiest schedule. Sorry, Georgia, that you normally get. Sorry, we got that. It's not our fault. That's what they gave us. But also it's our first year in the SEC, and we have cake games. Like, what are we talking about here?
Well, I mean, I didn't say that.
No, I know you didn't. You're SEC people.
Yeah,
those ones that chant SEC.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm tired of that.
I mean, no, I definitely get it. I think, I think something that people have to realize, and again, when you have a national championship won by Michigan within the last 3 years, that should be an indicator of how things have shifted some, because, why Michigan, right? Like it was just out of nowhere. Like Harbaugh comes back and then builds up the program. They explode. They win a national championship. Harbaugh's gone. But you just have to look at it like kind of in a vacuum. The SEC, I still truly believe, and I'm not going to go as far as to say like the worst teams are going to go into other conferences and dominate. I don't think that's true. But I will say that even like our mid-tier teams in the SEC are typically going to be better than mid-tier teams to, outside of the top 2 to 3 in other leagues most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. I would venture to make that bet. But it just, in Sam's case, like I think he's done enough this season. I should say, if we get bowl eligibility, which we still have Louisiana Tech between Texas and Mizzou, we finished the season with Mizzou. I'm hoping that everybody's on the same page with me and that we don't give a shit what happens in these next 2 games, as long as we just go out and absolutely just curb stomp Missouri, because I can promise you, for myself, as much as I enjoy, potentially beating LSU, as much as I enjoy beating maybe Ole Miss or Texas in this case, there is nothing this year that I want more than to just ram a football down Eli Drinkwitz's throat. So that's all I'm caring about. That's my whole goal here.
So we'll move on a little bit from the game. We'll give our score predictions at the end. But I do want to talk about the college football playoff projections that have come out. I'll throw it to you, Jono. What are your thoughts? So you have Oregon at number 1, Texas now at number 2, BYU at number 3, SMU at number 4, and then 5 Ohio State, Indiana at number 6, Tennessee at number 7, Penn State at number 8. Penn State would be playing Notre Dame. Ohio State would be playing Boise State. Tennessee would be playing Alabama, and Indiana would be playing Ole Miss. This thing has changed drastically in 1 week. So what's your thoughts, Jono?
I mean, it's going to continue to change. That's the thing. These last 3 weeks of the season, or 3 or 4, depending on the bye weeks, but it's going to be absolute chaos, man. You're going to have upsets here at the end, teams fighting for position, but I feel like this was the freaking perfect year for this format to come into play because thinking about 4 teams right now is extremely tough. I mean, we're having trouble here sitting at 12 now. So it's crazy to see some of these teams I did not expect to see up there with your Indianas of the world and Boise State sitting there. And then now we're sitting here this late in the season with Georgia on the outside looking in. So that's crazy to think with the quality wins that they have. And I know they've taken some losses, but if you look at their quality of wins, you can really stack that up against anybody in the country, in my opinion. But man, it's going to be chaos here at the end. Texas controls their own destiny, man. We just got to stay underneath the radar and keep doing what we're doing and keep winning.
Seth, what about you?
I mean, I think it's pretty hysterical, the freak out that kind of happened last night today over the Georgia being out of this. They keep wanting to I mean, their schedule is really hard this year.
Yeah.
If you look at the overall ratings of their schedule, their strength of schedule and everything, it is crazy. But it's year to year. Look at what schedule they had last year. They didn't play anybody last year, and they still didn't make the playoffs. So, I mean, year to year, I love watching that. I always love to watch everything burn. But as far as this goes, I think the matchup that they're currently predicting for Texas right now, I like either way that one comes out. I would think the Indiana matchup would just be fun to watch, and then the Alabama matchup I think is a really great matchup that I think we would have a good advantage in. Outside of that, I'll say I don't think Miami's going to get that spot there. I still think they got some dropping to do.
Jake, before I go, I have a little scenario, but go ahead and give me your thoughts real quick.
I mean, yeah, I tend to agree. I think there's some big question marks with some of these teams. Miami's a great example. I don't know how you can put a team that just lost to Georgia Tech that high up the list. I understand it's their only loss, but that's a pretty significant loss if you ask me. And BYU, again, I know you can only play the opponents in front of you, but I'm not really sure that I'm too convinced by what they've done with the opponents they've played. I'm not.
Well, they're going to be the conference
not
champion.
Too convinced with that. And
you know that, right? You know that.
I know. I understand. Like, yeah, and again, I understand that. Like, and it's Big 12 now, right? It's they're in a bigger conference, bigger platform, but what is that really saying? Like your best team at the beginning of the Big 12 conference year was Oklahoma State, and they're not even ranked anymore. So,
I mean, they were
K-State's
good enough to beat
down.
Arkansas.
Well, a lot of teams have been good enough to beat Arkansas, it would seem, at this point. So, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I still think there's going to be some upsets to shake out of this too. Tennessee's got to beat Georgia this week, and then they have to end the season with Vandy. Vandy's not a pushover this year. And I mean, I can't really think of anything that would just be much funnier to me than Tennessee beating Georgia this weekend and then losing to Vandy at the last weekend of it and keeping them out of it. I mean, can you imagine that? That's the kind of crap that I'm here for.
So
Indiana's got to be.
I want to sidetrack that for a second because I want to talk about SEC scenarios, but the scenario for the playoff projection I have is in the Big 12. What if in the Big 12 championship, Colorado comes in and ruins BYU's season? Colorado is now in that spot, not only there, but also bumps somebody out of the 12-team playoff on top of that. So you're knocking BYU out of the playoff, and on top of that, you're knocking off somebody else.
That would be so annoying to hear.
Yep.
That'd be insane.
That'd be cool to see, though, man. I mean, it would be fun to see guys like, that may be the first and second pick in the NFL draft, Yeah. Colorado, obviously teams are going to fear Colorado a lot more than they're going to fear BYU. So
that's so crazy.
Which is crazy to think that Deion's got him where they're at right now and in prime position, no pun intended.
It's Big 12. It's Big 12.
Yeah,
it's
man.
a very different spot than where they were this time last year.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's the other scenario. SEC wise, we could have massive chaos in the SEC. if Tennessee loses or Tennessee beats Georgia, then they're good. They're going on through as long as they win out. But so basically, if Tennessee wins out, it'll be the winner of the Texas A&M game that will play in the SEC championship. Right. If Georgia ends up winning, then you've got how many teams at 2 losses?
Isn't it 5?
You'll have, I believe it'll be 6 because one of those will come in with Texas A&M.
If Tennessee loses, it would be 6.
So Texas, because I was watching this, the way it's set up with that many ties, it goes to a percentage. It basically strength of schedule is what they said.
Yeah.
Texas would go from 1 to 8 with 2 losses in the SEC.
That's nuts.
Based off of strength of schedule. So there's a lot at stake here. Texas has to win out. Like it needs to happen. But SEC, basically the SEC higher ups are just hoping at this point, I believe, for Tennessee to win out and that way Texas A&M, the winner of that one, as long Texas A&M I think has an easy one next week or after next week, and then they play us. So that's the best case scenario for the entire SEC. Worst case scenario is Tennessee or Georgia ends up beating them, which Nico is still a question mark on that game. So there's still a lot of question marks, even in the SEC right now.
Lots.
Yeah,
it's a crazy scenario. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of shows going through that whole rundown of what could be, and I mean, I'm scared, but at the same time, I mean, we're having a great season. I'm going to keep riding this train.
To circle back to finish my thought just a little bit earlier, one more thing I wanted to mention. I think you're going to have a free spot wherever Notre Dame is because I think they're losing to Army. Just throwing that out there.
True that.
And I also think that Army is going to replace Boise State with that group of 5 bid, and we're going to get Army in the playoff, and it's going to be absolutely electric.
So you think Boise State's going to – I don't think Boise State will be jumped by Army. I think it's going to take a loss for Boise State.
Well, they have to play San Jose, Wyoming, and Oregon State. I think they would just have to lose one of those games, and Army beat.
Right. That's what I'm saying right now. I don't know if the way Boise State will be close, but the way Boise State is right now, I don't see them losing one of those.
Oh, you're saying they're just playing well enough not to?
Yeah.
And that's probably true. That's probably true. I think what I'm trying to indicate here is I'm doing a little bit of wishing. I'm hoping that
you'll be doing a lot of that.
This does happen because I would much rather see Army in the college playoff because that would just be insane. It'd be absolutely insane.
We talked about that. We really wanted it to be Navy and Army battling it out at the end, but
by the end of the season, last end of the season game. Yeah, that'd be good.
That could still be the
most relevant Army Navy game of all time.
Yeah. I mean, Navy could pull the upset at the end of the season whenever Army, somehow they get past Notre Dame and they're sitting there in prime position for the playoffs and then somehow stub their toe versus Navy in that last game of the year, which we could definitely see that happen. But these last few weeks, man, are just going to be chaos, man. There's going to be a lot of shakeup, which I feel like especially between that 6 and 12 position. I feel like there's a lot of teams that are going to get shook up in there.
Also, in other news in the world of Texas, the First Lady appears to be so back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thought we were taking us political for a second.
No.
What?
No. Texas only.
Am I missing something here?
Sarkeesian. There were rumors that Sarkeesian and his wife were getting divorced about 3 or 4 weeks ago, right at the beginning of the season, and they had been separated, I guess. And last week, or at this press conference, he's wearing his wedding ring. She's posting TikToks of telling Bert to run the dang ball with her pink headset from the box up top. I mean, the power couple's back. I mean, we're also back right now in Texas. So.
Good for them.
Yes, it's a good feeling. I'll tell you. I don't know. This is my one game that I'm like, once we get past this, I was a lot more nervous before the Florida game. After seeing us in Florida, I'm not as nervous about this game. The line did go from 16.5. Texas favored 16.5 and went down to 13.5 so far.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
I keep having a hard time trying to assess how I feel about the game just because Arkansas, I don't know what to think about Arkansas. The ups and downs, it's really hard to know what to feel.
I think that's an Arkansas
welcome
fan.
to the club.
Yeah.
Welcome to my feeling every week. I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, going over stats, going over everything, and thinking to myself, like, well, we could win. We could also get blown out. So, I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. There's just
I do feel like there's
no level
still
set consistency.
there's still a little bit of trauma from the last time we played y'all. That game destroyed my whole week. I was out on the sidewalk contemplating life like at halftime.
To think
It was nuts.
To think we were relying on Hudson Card and Casey Thompson in those days, who both are still playing.
Yeah, but
Kind of.
You also had a kid named Bijan. I don't know if you remember.
I mean, he's okay. Yeah,
he's all right.
Honey mustard, dude.
He's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we had so going back, like Sark was talking about his first years, and he said the reason why we didn't have a spring game that year, and I didn't even realize this, the reason we didn't have a spring game is because they literally couldn't fill an offensive line on both sides of the ball. I think they had 8 offensive linemen total at that time for the spring game, so that was a big factor. This is not going to be the same offensive line that you guys had you got to face the first time, or defensively. We are built a lot differently. You guys got any other news? And we'll talk about other games. Any other fun news in the college football world?
What has been happening?
I don't remember a whole lot. I mean, besides the AD of Utah crying.
We already talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that. Jacob brought up Pavia. I didn't realize it was JUCO.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because he played JUCO.
2 years of JUCO that he's wanting back pay for.
Bro, I don't understand. It's still college.
I don't know. You got me, man. Like, I don't know. Like, the floodgates opened, and now everybody's just expectant of something.
I still don't I don't understand why. What's his name from Utah? Cam Rising. Yeah. What is this going to be his 8th year?
Yeah.
7th. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. He'll be what, 26, I think.
Yeah. They're called doctors.
Yeah. Yep. It's crazy. At a certain point, I don't know why you want to keep on with this anyway.
Yeah, like but if he plays another year, I was talking about this. He plays another year, he goes to the NFL. He's going to retire after a year or two because he's so old.
It's like Josh Whedon.
Jeez,
bro.
Let's talk about the games coming up. So 11 a.m. games. What games? Jono, you pick a game. 11 a.m. What are you excited to watch besides the Texas Arkansas game?
I think besides that, I would probably say Clemson Pitt. Clemson looking a little shaky lately. Pitt having a better season than anybody expected at Pitt. Clemson favored by 10. Should be an interesting game to see. Clemson still holding on for hope in the ACC, but you got a couple other teams that are pulling away right now. So I'd say I'd circle that one. It's interesting game for sure.
The correct answer is no other games. There are no other interesting games.
I don't know.
I will
The
not be
Colorado-Utah
watching
game. Colorado-Utah.
Colorado-Utah.
Ohio State, man, they have been railroaded with the 11 a.m. games this year. I think it's 5.
Crazy.
Like, I don't know. Fox has got, or no, they're at CBS now. But they still get the big noon games every so often, I think.
Yeah, they keep getting the big noon games.
Yeah.
I think they had any night games. I think all their home games were 11 a.m.s this year. Because their last 2 games of the year, they play Indiana comes to town in the Horseshoe, and then Michigan, and both of those games are already slated to be big noon games.
Well, Michigan, from what I understand, has basically their big donors refused to let that game be anything except for 11 a.m.
Really?
For some reason, they do not want to play at night.
That's
They're
interesting.
ready. They just want to get that ass whooping. Excuse me. Just
They'll
want to
be
get it
getting
over
that.
with.
They will not hold back this year. That is
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh hell no. Ryan Day's got something to prove.
Oh yeah. Okay, let's move on to the afternoon games. Like 2:00, 3:00 start or slate. What? There's really no other good game. Like my goodness. We say that every time we say that, it's like, what just happened? You got South Carolina at Mizzou. I mean, kind of, I guess.
Two
Yeah,
ranked teams.
I mean, midday. The LSU Florida is like by far the only midday game that stands out.
I wrote that one down too. That would be the one that would catch my eye the most out of the midday games, LSU Florida. And it's just because again, it's you're carrying conference weight there between those two teams, and it's always good. So
So can you imagine Florida getting up and beating LSU at home? Not beating LSU at home, but Florida having them at home. Oh,
Yeah,
it'd be so
that's
great.
yeah.
Yeah, can you imagine? Like, how do we defend that Texas has a soft schedule at that point? I mean, you just come in and smoke Florida, and now all of a sudden Florida beats LSU. It's like, okay, well,
Maybe they're not so bad.
Well, the good news is Lagway will be back, so that'll help them. So
That was going to be my question. Is he supposed to play?
Yeah, he was suited
he's
up
playing.
for the game against us. He was suited up, but they never played him. Night slate, you've got Oregon, Wisconsin. Big game is going to be Georgia, Tennessee. And then Aggie on Aggie crime. Texas A&M versus New Mexico State.
How do y'all feel about that Tennessee and Georgia game? How do you feel like that's going to go?
I don't know anymore. Like, it's like Georgia. I don't know what Georgia team is going to show up anymore because they looked unbeatable against us, and then all of a sudden they just fall flat on their face 2 games in a row. Like, Florida should have beat them. If Lagway's in the game the whole time, they lose to Florida.
I'm telling you, that Ole Miss game that they played has got me so confused. Like, just watching their defense, which has been their best unit, for years, right? It just has. Watching their defense play just like a bunch of bums against it's just I don't understand. Again, like I do understand. Like I know Ole Miss has a good offense. They dump tons of points on us. Not that our defense is very good, but then they go on and do basically the same thing within the same vacuum there against Georgia. And if you're hanging 30 something points on a Georgia defense, like your offense is doing some stuff.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's weird to me to watch that. And then Georgia's offense is clueless. Like they don't. Carson Beck might suck, y'all. Like for real, he might actually.
Yeah, potato. No,
Yeah.
that's a different.
He's a
No,
potato.
that's not. Is he potato too or no?
He could be.
Jackson Dart.
Yeah. I mean, that kid, he plays like he looks without a helmet on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
What do
know
y'all
about
think about Tennessee without Nico this week? I mean,
Is that official?
He's
I heard
on concussion protocol.
Yeah, I heard he's practicing though. I mean, if Nico's not playing,
No.
He says he expects him to be ready to go against Georgia, is what Heupel said today at his press conference. So,
really,
I mean, I don't really know if it's going to matter, to be honest with you. If you look at Tennessee and their offense, I mean, they put up 25, 19, 23, 24, 28. I mean, they really haven't had an explosive game really at any point since they played Kent State. I mean, they've been a very average looking offense. But to y'all's point, what Georgia defense are we going to see show up? Are we going to see the Georgia defense that played against Texas? Or are we going to see the one that got gashed by every Ole Miss player on the roster last week?
Is that game between the hedges? Is that in Georgia?
yes,
It's in Georgia, and it's a night game.
it's a night game.
Mm.
I mean,
that does make a pretty big difference
For sure.
in my opinion.
You probably see the same defense celebrating with the other team like we saw last week.
what an idiot!
What a wild.
Yeah, dude, he did not hold back.
No, like what a wild press conference. Like what do you mean? Like no one, and he's like, I don't have time to worry about that. I got a game to worry about. It's like, no wonder why you have there's no accountability on your football team. Guys just getting speeding tickets, they're getting arrested. No accountability at Georgia.
I feel like you got to stay in that situation. We're dealing with this in house. It was a disappointing thing to see and move on instead of just being like, he's an idiot.
What an idiot.
This kid's an idiot.
It's so harsh, man. You know that kid's not going to see the field anytime soon.
But can you imagine his parents? Like, he was dancing with his mom. Can you imagine how his mom feels?
Yeah.
Like, they're sitting there like, oh God. Might have just cost my son a scholarship.
Bigger reaction than we get out of DWIs and assaults and everything like that.
Yeah, no,
all of that's handled in house. We'll deal with it. And like that one, nope.
Yeah, of course. Typical Georgia.
Moron.
We'll say another night game, a late night game that I think will be good to watch would be Kansas BYU. The way Kansas has been playing.
Yeah.
I think BYU is flirting with the disaster already. They got bailed out last week, so that'll be an interesting game. Let's move on to picks of the week. Jacob, what picks you got for this week?
No, I'm sorry, I'm not too familiar. So, are you like the lines and stuff like that?
Yeah. So what we do is we make. So for us as a group, we have a running every week. We pick 5 games and we pick the lines.
Okay.
On there, if you just to pick the win, they've got to be an underdog in order to pick them to win.
Okay. I mean, I like. Yeah, I mean, you can if you want to. I wrote a couple of them down, but I don't really feel like they're going to fit what you're trying to get out of it.
Oh no,
so
this is just what you.
One of you guys go first. That's fine. Okay. I don't mind. I can absolutely come in after that.
Seth, why don't you go?
All right. I'm going to go Colorado's. It's a Friday night game. Colorado State minus 10.5 against Wyoming. It's not the Wyoming of old. I like that one. This one's kind of dicey. ULM plus 24 versus Auburn. I want to see if they can hang in there, at least keep it under 24. Ballsy pick, right? JMU minus 3 versus Old Dominion. Had to add that one in after I saw y'all's picks. And West Virginia. No, I had mine written out like a couple of days ago, and I was waiting for the sheet, and then I got on there and saw y'all had taken some of them. West Virginia plus 2.5 against Baylor. Plus 2.5, and then BYU over KU over Kansas.
Okay. Jono, you go.
I got Oregon minus 14 against Wisconsin. I think Oregon rolls in that game. Kansas State minus 8.5 versus Arizona State, which could be an interesting game. Arizona State's had a pretty good year this year, but I just feel like it being in Kansas, it's going to be a little bit different story. So got Boise State minus 13.5 versus San Jose State. I got Georgia minus 10 versus Tennessee. I feel like Georgia bounces back in this game personally. And then flipping the switch on Seth here, and I'm going to take Baylor minus 2.5 against West Virginia.
All right, Jake, you ready?
Yeah, no, I got you. Okay. So I like you got Tulane versus Navy this week. Tulane minus 6.5. I actually like Navy in that game completely. I think Navy makes a turnaround and ends up beating Tulane, even though Tulane has been, incredible offense this season. So I do like Navy to come back there. You got Penn State at Purdue. Penn State's minus 28.5. I like them to actually cover. I like them to get all 28.5 plus some. Purdue's been absolutely terrible, and all of the top 10 teams that they've played have hung 30 plus on them, scoring margins of 30 plus. So I do like Penn State to get to 28.5 there. Close to home here, Texas. So the line I got on this one was minus 30. It's Texas 13.5. I like Arkansas. I like Arkansas inside the 13.5 there. I think Texas still wins the game. I'm realistic, but give me the 13.5 points. And then the Kansas and BYU game as well. I'll take it's BYU minus 3. I like BYU to cover BYU on the points.
All righty. I've got Ohio State minus 28.5 over Northwestern. I have
You have 28.2 on there, man.
I know. Well, look at typing was fast. I have LSU. I'm thinking about changing this.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm changing. I'm actually taking Florida. Florida plus 4.5.
Oh wow.
Let's go. Let's go.
Over LSU. I have the real Aggies to beat. Well, not beat, but at least cover the 39 points against the fake Texas A&M Aggies. So that is, I have New Mexico State plus 39. I have South Carolina minus 12 over Mizzou. I think South Carolina barrel rolls Mizzou. And this game, I was back and forth. I have USC minus 9 over Nebraska. Nebraska's probably going to show up and just blow them out of nowhere. It's one of those. That's the one I'm like, nah, probably not going to happen. But I do have USC minus 9. Actually, I'm changing that one too. We're going Nebraska plus 9. We're changing that too. We'll do it live. We'll do it live.
I'm gonna laugh on Sunday when you're like, "Dang, I should have just stuck with my original."
Yeah.
No. Listen, man, you only live once. All right. Score predictions. Jacob, what is your score prediction for this game? And remember, it needs to be within 13 points.
13 and a half,
remember
right?
that.
Yeah. I think I had Texas 28, Arkansas 17.
Okay.
So a good old round 11 there.
Seth, you go.
All right. I'm going to keep capitalizing off our offense last week and go 42-21 Texas.
Okay. Jono?
I got 38-17 Texas.
Okay. I'm going to continue with my trend of underrating this offense so we can continue to blow teams out. I'm taking one for the team here, boys. I'm going to take L's the rest of the season.
Let me guess. Arkansas is going to cover?
Arkansas is not going to cover, though. Unfortunately, they are not. It is going to be 31-14 Texas over Arkansas. I think playing Ole Miss and having that video footage of what exactly to do and the way Sark is scheming and game planning right now, Arkansas's heads are going to spin just like Florida's linebackers were trying to figure out who had the football. I love you, Jake. I appreciate you being on, but it's going to be a smoke show again. But unfortunately, it's only going to be 31-14. So, with that being said, Jacob, thank you so much. Where 9 to 5? Where can we listen to it?
Yeah, it's Instagram, Spotify, 9 to 5 _sportscast.
Okay, 9 to 5 _sportscast. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it, as always. With that being said, you guys have anything else?
I'm ready to go. Glad to be back. Let's go.
Yeah, it's glad to be back. Yeah, we'd stop that. Hook 'em horns, baby. Give me the horns. Give me the horns down. You won't horns down me. Give me the horns down. Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm
glad